President Donald Trump is facing bipartisan criticism today after he posted and later deleted a racist video on social media that many leaders are condemning. We are not airing the video. The video included an animation of former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama depicted with the bodies of apes. Republican Senator Tim Scott wrote that it was, quote, the most racist thing he has seen from the White House. The White House initially dismissed the backlash as, quote, fake outrage, but later said a White House staffer mistakenly posted that video.
Hello, everyone. Your Adam is here again. In the digital age, a president's power is not just measured in legislation signed or wars waged, but in pixels posted and narratives launched into the ether with the tap of a screen. The social media feed has become the modern-day bully pulpit, a raw, unfiltered conduit to the national psyche.
As the White House responding to the criticism ever since Trump put it out on his Truth Social. The video that was deleted included a racist meme depicting former President Obama and his wife Michelle as apes. As you may recall, images of black people as apes have been used throughout American history to dehumanize them.
It is here, in this arena of instant reaction and perpetual campaigning, that a leader's true character is most starkly revealed, not in polished speeches, but in the spontaneous, often venomous ID of the share button. What erupts then, when that ID unleashes not a political broadside, but a historical obscenity? When the most powerful office in the world becomes a megaphone for one of the oldest, most violently dehumanizing hatreds in the American story.
A racist video that President Trump reposted on his verified Truth Social account has now been taken down. The video depicted the Obamas as apes. It appeared at the end of a 1-minute video that promotes false claims that the 2020 presidential election was rigged. The 2-second clip showed the Obamas' head edited onto the bodies of primates to the song.
The result is not merely a scandal, it is a national rupture, a moment that forces every institution, every ally, every citizen to choose a side in the stark light of undeniable bigotry. And what follows? The panicked response, the clumsy lies, the sacrificial offering of low-level staff, becomes a second scandal, often more revealing than the first. It exposes not a single failing, but the rotten architecture of an entire administration, its moral vacancy, its pathological dishonesty, and its cowering fear when its own toxicity finally overwhelms the system built to enable it. This is the precise 2-act tragedy that has just played out from the White House. Act 1. The President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, posts a video to his Truth Social account so blatantly, unambiguously racist that it momentarily silences the cacophonous noise of American politics. Act 2. His administration, personified by Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, first defends the indefensible with sneering contempt, then, as condemnation swells from within their own ranks, scrambles to delete the evidence and concoct a childishly transparent lie that insults the intelligence of the entire nation. The video itself is a piece of digital poison. While the specific edits may vary in their crudeness, the core imagery reported is atomic in its offensive power. It depicts former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama, subjected to the ape or gorilla trope. This is not casual racism. This is foundational historical hatred. For centuries, this specific visual libel has been used to rob black people of their humanity, to frame them as subhuman, primitive, and beastly, a propaganda tool to justify slavery, segregation, and systemic violence. To deploy it against the first black first family, a couple of peerless dignity, scholarly achievement, and historic grace, is to consciously drag the most heinous strands of American history into the modern White House's communications strategy. The shockwave was immediate and visceral. It cut through the usual partisan fog. This wasn't a debate about tax policy or border security, where partisan lenses color every interpretation. This was a bright, searing line. Across newsrooms, living rooms, and Capitol cloakrooms, the reaction was a unified, gut-level revulsion. The internet, that fractious and divided space, found a rare moment of consensus. This was beyond the pale. In those first critical hours, the White House faced its moment of truth. The path of minimal decency, and not coincidentally of basic political prudence, was clear. delete the post, issue a concise statement of regret, and attempt to move on. The damage would have been severe, but contained. Instead, the Trump White House, true to its core identity, chose escalation. It chose to weaponize the outrage. The call came not from a low-level intern, but from the podium's shadow. Karoline Leavitt, the administration's chief public defender, engaged with reporters. Her response was not one of procedural confusion, "we're looking into it," or diplomatic regret. The post does not reflect the views of the president. It was a full-throated, combative endorsement. Her statement to Politico was a masterpiece of gaslighting and grievance. She dismissed the volcanic national reaction as fake outrage. She reframed the racist caricature as a benign internet meme depicting President Trump as the king of the jungle and Democrats as characters from The Lion King. Her closing command, "Report on something today that actually matters to the American public," was the ultimate tell. It laid bare the administration's chilling hierarchy of concerns. Allegations of corruption, details of a struggling economy, testimony about a president's role in an insurrection, these could be battlegrounds. But the open, graphic racism targeting the Obamas, that was a distraction, a triviality, a fake issue unworthy of the serious people in the room. With this statement, Leavitt did not merely defend a post. She articulated a philosophy. She declared that the racist degradation of the most significant black figures in modern American life was not a matter of actual importance. In doing so, she signaled to every bigot that their instincts were valid, and she signaled to every decent person that decency itself was now a disposable affectation in the eyes of the state. This initial defense was the administration planting its flag on a hill of pure malice. They believed the hill was defensible. They were wrong. The backlash began to mutate, transforming from external criticism into internal rebellion. The first cracks appeared not from Democrats, but from within the Republican Party's own senatorial ranks. These are not moderate squishes or never Trump holdouts. These are reliable votes for the MAGA agenda. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, the most prominent black Republican in the country, a man who has swallowed countless indignities to remain in Trump's orbit, could not stomach this. His statement was simple and damning. The White House should remove it and apologize. The word apologize hung in the air, a foreign concept in the Trump lexicon. Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi, a staunch conservative, called the video totally unacceptable and echoed the need for removal and apology. Senator Pete Ricketts of Nebraska followed, injecting a note of legalistic reason, stating that even if this was a Lion King meme, a reasonable person sees the racist context. The invocation of the reasonable person standard was a quiet but devastating rebuke to Leavitt's entire fake outrage framing. It stated plainly, the problem is not with the critic's sensitivity, the problem is with the thing itself. This was a political earthquake. The unified front was shattered. Trump was being condemned on grounds of basic morality by members of his own governing coalition. The story was no longer Democrats accuse Trump of racism. It was Trump's racism fractures the GOP. The condemnation bled into the conservative media ecosystem. Brit Hume, the dean of Fox News anchors, a man not given to melodramatic pronouncements, responded with a stunned, "What the hell?" a reaction that spoke volumes about the video's shocking nature. Matt Mitchell, a right-wing pollster, offered a grimly pragmatic take, essentially writing off the political damage because Trump had already alienated so much of the black electorate. It was a condemnation not of morality, but of strategy. This was stupid, even for Trump. From the left, the responses were ferocious, as expected. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries branded Trump a vile, unhinged, and malignant bottom feeder. Maryland Governor Wes Moore delivered a powerful statement, noting it goes beyond a dog whistle and is blatant racism, connecting the imagery to centuries of weaponized hate. The NAACP president skillfully tied the moment to Trump's other vulnerabilities, pointedly noting, "You know who isn't in the Epstein files? Barack Obama." For nearly half a day, the video remained. The White House, via Leavitt's posture, stood its ground. They had drawn their line, but the ground was crumbling beneath them. The internal GOP dissent was the killer blow. It meant the story had legs. It meant every Republican lawmaker would be hounded by reporters with a simple question: do you agree with Senators Scott, Wicker, and Ricketts? The pressure became unsustainable. And so, without announcement, fanfare, or crucially apology, the video vanished. The link on Trump's Truth Social feed led to a dead end. Resource not found. The digital corpse was quietly buried. The deletion was a white flag, an admission that the Hill was indeed indefensible. But in Trump world, surrender must always be disguised as something else. A retreat is never a retreat. It is a strategic repositioning following the discovery of new, exculpatory information. Thus, Act 2 commenced the lie. A senior White House official, the classic conduit for cowardly, unattributed falsehoods, floated a new story to reporters. The brave defense of the Lion King meme was over. Now, the official line was, a White House staffer erroneously made the post. It's been taken down. Let us dissect this second layer with the forensic attention it deserves, for here lies the true exposure of the administration's character. The contradiction. Leavitt's initial defense and the staffer error story are logically mutually exclusive. They cannot both be true. If Leavitt was correct, the video was an innocent, non-racist Lion King allegory. Therefore, posting it was intentional and correct. There was no error. A staffer posting approved content is doing their job. If the senior official is correct, the video was a racist error. Therefore, Leavitt's defense of it as innocent was itself a profound error, a defense of racism. She either knowingly defended racist content or is so incompetent she cannot identify it. The administration is asking you to believe both that the video was harmless and that it was an unforgivable mistake. This is not a coherent position. It is the flailing of people caught in a lie, desperately tossing out any explanation to see what sticks. The insulting implausibility. The rogue staffer narrative is an affront to basic logic. Donald Trump's Truth Social account is his most sacred digital territory, the unfiltered channel to his base. Access is notoriously restricted to a tiny, trusted circle. The idea that a random staffer could, by error, access this account, create or source a virulently racist video meme, compose a post, and hit publish, and that this error would go unnoticed by Trump, his family, his senior advisors, or Leavitt herself for 12 hours of national fury, is ludicrous. It treats the public as imbeciles. The pattern. This staffer did it excuse is a worn-out page from a tattered playbook. It is the perpetual escape hatch. Whenever Trump is caught saying something vile on tape, it's locker room talk. Whenever his account shares something deranged, it's a staffer. The individual is always sacrificial, the principle never accountable. It is a system built on the premise that the leader is infallible, and all errors are the fault of the interchangeable, expendable servants below. This sequence, post, defend, collapse, delete, blame a underling, achieves several devastating exposures. 1. The moral vacuum. Confirmed, the instinct to defend before deleting reveals the true north of Trump's politics. The initial calculation is never, is this right? But can we weaponize this? Only when the weapon backfires catastrophically is it discarded. 2. The absolute cowardice. The silent deletion, absent any apology to the Obamas or the public, is the act of a thief caught on camera, slipping away hoping no one notices. It concedes guilt while refusing to acknowledge it, the worst of all worlds. 3. Karoline Leavitt, exposed and undermined. Leavitt's role is now irreparably diminished. She has been hung out to dry. She either knowingly defended racist content on national television, making her a willing propagandist for bigotry, was blindsided by her own office's cover story, revealing she is not in the trusted inner circle and is a puppet whose strings can be cut without warning. Either scenario incinerates her credibility. She is exposed not as a serious spokesperson navigating difficult truths, but as a disposable shield, expected to absorb shrapnel for a lie that her own colleagues will later disavow. 4. The Republican dilemma sharpened. Senators Scott, Wicker, and Ricketts made a stand. They demanded deletion and apology. They got the first, technical part. The second, the moral part, has been ignored. They are now left in a purgatory of their own making. Will they accept this outcome, demonstrating that their condemnation carries no consequence and that Trump can racistly attack a former president with impunity? Or will they escalate, creating an open, ongoing rift? Their silence now will be deafening. 5. The crisis management pathology. This episode is a textbook study in how not to handle a crisis. A functional administration operates on a sequence: prevent error, acknowledge error, correct error, learn from error. The Trump administration operates on commit outrage, double down on outrage, flee from outrage, lie about origin of outrage. It is a cycle that guarantees permanent scandal and erodes all trust. The video may be deleted, but the afterimage is burned into the national retina. This was not a gaffe or a slip. It was a conscious act of symbolic violence, followed by a parade of lies. It proved that the most powerful office can be a platform for the nation's worst instincts. It showed that the mechanisms of that office, when commanded by a certain character, will first defend those instincts, then lie to cover them up, and finally sacrifice a fictional staffer in a pathetic pantomime of accountability. The story's legacy is no longer the video itself, but the grotesque dance performed to try and erase it. In that dance, we see the true face of this presidency: morally blind, strategically reckless, and pathologically dishonest all the way down.